Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So it turns out starting a YouTube channel doesn't turn you into a winner. Who would have thought? So here are the results from the first round of the mini championship. I ended up finishing fourth, about a lap back from second and third. So not too bad. I mean, that's like a crash or two away. To be honest, I had quite a few crashes in the last lane, so I barely just squeaked by with 24 laps. Um, for those who don't know, the format of the championship series is 5 minute races. You get one race on each lane, and then the reason why the laps have a point next to them is because when the 5 minutes are up, wherever your car stopped on the track, essentially that's like the sector you're in, and that's where you get the point from. So again, using the yellow lane as an example, I did a 24.1. So I would have essentially crossed the line and ended up somewhere between the start and kind of the first corner. Um, I added it all up. I did 97.8, whereas third place did 98.7, and then second was 98.9. First was is quite out of reach at the moment. Um, and we'll do a little deep dive into the lap times and see what was going on. So let's take a look at the fastest laps. All right, so looking at the fastest laps now. Um, yeah, I mean for the most part, I was I was there. I wasn't too far off. Like if we look at Colin, for example, about a tenth in the red lane, more or less matched in the blue lane. So on and so forth. So kind of close. Comparing it to Ivan, Ivan was significantly faster, though. That's kind of where we run into a problem. The red lane was close, but if you look at something like the yellow lane, it was quite a big gap. 5 tenths versus, I'm sorry, 11.5 versus 10.8. So that's something going on, something going on there. Green kind of similar as well with 11.3 to 10.9. Um, and yeah, you could see on the night, Ivan had the fastest lap in each lane. So, so yeah, the car itself felt good. I didn't really feel like I was being held back too much by the car. Um, One interesting thing I learned that some of the guys in the club have a different Mini than I have. So apparently mine's a Mini Cooper. And it comes with like that classic looking body. I think it's like a flag series or something like that, where they have like the Union Jack on the top. Um, and then the other guys have these. If you look at the bottom of the chassis, it says BRM Mini 1300, whereas mine says Mini Cooper. Um, the biggest difference outside of the livery is the tires. So theirs have these smaller diameter tires, but like a larger wheel, whereas mine is the opposite, where it's like a really fat tire, a small like wheel. Um, so yeah, I actually have a set of wheels and tires I can grab for my other BRM car. So I'm gonna give that a try. So we'll do some testing at home and see how that goes. If anything, it looks kind of cool. The wheels are yellow, so the yellow and the green kind of look cool. So I'm gonna test it at home, see how that goes, and I'll be most likely running it at the next championship round, or at least testing it at the track. Um, Speaking of testing at the track, um, I noticed everyone was kind of getting their cars in order when I got there, which is great. Everyone, as you can see with the lap times, are very similar to each other. Um, but the one thing that kind of stood out to me was the nail polish. If you remembered in my last video, applying the nail polish to the car made probably the biggest difference. And I think by the time I started racing, especially by the end of the night, I think the nail polish was weared off, whereas most of the other guys had freshly applied it. right before the race. Um, so I think going forward, I'll be applying it probably on the day. But to be honest, having said all that, there were drivers that didn't have that nail polish at all. So, and they were still quite fast. So, at the end of the day, it really kind of comes down to your consistency in your driving. Um, if we take a look at some of the heats, like the last one, for example, which one was that? When was I in the Heat 9? You can kind of see looking at the lap times here. I had a few crashes. Here's a spike here, spike here. Not not the best. Another little spike here, but yeah. So not only was my best lap kind of slow. I mean, if you look at the average, I was averaging a 12.7. So my average, I'm sorry, 12.2. So I was, comparing that to Colin, for example, about 2/10 on average slower, which is quite a gap, to try to overcome. So, but outside of fastest lap, obviously being consistent, not crashing, is more important. Um, if we take a look here at this heat number 3, I'm in the red lane, and George in the blue lane. My best lap was 2/10 faster than George's best lap, but he ended up winning, obviously because his average was better than mine. So he was more consistent throughout the heat, and George actually ended up finishing second overall. And if we click back on fastest lap times, you can see his fastest laps were good. There was nothing wrong with his fastest laps, but they were in general slower than mine. But he was able to beat me overall because he was just more consistent, crashed less and things like that. So I think at the end of the day, I have to work more on my driving than anything. The car could be faster, but it's not slow enough to the point where it's holding me back. So I think the takeaway from the first round is working on my driving, just practicing more, whether it be at the club or at home. Just so working on my driving is going to be the big takeaway. So I wasn't able to record a video of every heat, but I did manage to grab a video of Heat 5, which actually turned out to be a pretty entertaining race. I ended up, I was in fourth for, I was in last place for a good part of it, and I ended up finishing second. I did have a little bit of a tangle with George. I ended up kind of taking him out a little bit, but no, it was a good race. Me and Colin had a lot of back and forth as well. Um, Unfortunately, no battles for the lead. Ivan kind of checked out pretty early on in that race, but the rest of us were battling pretty hard. So you can go ahead and watch that at the end of this video. Yeah, I mean, I noticed kind of towards the end of the race, I think I was kind of really starting to lose pace. Like these 2 laps right here. I mean, you're talking almost 6/10 right there, and then another 2/10, another 2/10, another 3/10. Um, had it not been for this crash that Colin made, he definitely would have passed me. So, but but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're just racing slot cars for fun. Even though we have all this data and all the tuning and things like that, it's still just having fun in the end of the day. And the racing was quite fun. The minis provide very close racing, and everyone's everyone's best lap was kind of similar to each other, so that's good. So everyone's kind of on the same pace, and just yeah. For me personally, I'm going to work on, like I said, my driving, and I will be tuning the car a little bit. I want to do testing with those different tires, but for the most part, I think it's going to be for me just working on my driving and trying to be a little bit more aggressive. I tend to drive a little conservatively. Um, you know, I noticed specifically with Heat 9, my lap time was 11.5, and I was kind of mindful of that. Like as I was racing, I noticed what my best lap time was, and I was like, it seems much slower than it should be. I should be, more like an 11.2, 11.3, something along those lines. and so I just kept pushing harder and harder, and it did not make me faster. Instead, I just crashed more. So you can see this race was full of crashes. Whereas had I just dialed it back a little bit and tried to keep within that 11.5, I would have probably got an extra lap in. I mean, I had multiple crashes in this race, so yeah. So I'm either conservative, I'm either conservative or overdrive because I think I should be faster. So I, it's not great, but yeah. So anyway, I think that's gonna be it for the race recap. We'll go ahead and probably be doing one of these after each round. Yeah, so thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, stick around for the video of Heat 5. It's a pretty good race. Thanks for watching.